And my hope is, although there's no metrics, there's no KPIs, there's no stat sheet, there's no dashboard for the decathlete of life. My hope is that I can be in that top 20% of, triathlon or top 5-10% in triathlons, but also in business, in, religion, in family life as a father, in whatever it might be. I hope that I can be in that top percentile so that the whole person matches up to be the number one in the world.
Yeah.
And I can't measure it, but it's how I feel.
Welcome to BrainStoke. We're so excited today. Scott Mortensen is in studio with us. We actually moved studio. Thank you, Liza Telford, for allowing us to take over your office. And there's no chance we're getting it back to where it was before. So, we'll do our best. We should have taken a bunch of pictures beforehand.
Yeah, there's accessories that are now on the wrong tables and plants in the wrong places. And
Totally.
Sorry, Liza.
And thank you for the beverages and the Twixes. We appreciate that. We're excited today. We want to start with thanking our sponsors, Aspire Counseling and Aspire Medical. Fantastic people who are doing great work in the mental health space. Their sponsorship allows us to be here today in their office and taking advantage of, the space to do this the right way, a little more light. So thank you so much, Aspire family. Let's dive in today. So Scott Mortensen is here with us. And Preston, do you want to give an introduction? Because you are close friends, neighbors, and although we both know him, you just do it well.
Oh, well, anyone that knows Scott knows that he's a stud, and it appears he's got it all figured out. He's shaking his head no. But I think he does.
Definitely not.
He's decorated in his career. Extremely fit and athletic. I tried to hold his wheel on a bike ride once when he was doing intervals, and I didn't. After the fourth interval, I was off the back.
Well, let's be clear. You had ridden like 17 days in a row, and you're at the end of that. So,
yeah.
Preston, are you employed?
Indeed. He's got legs that are the size of tree trunks, and I'm super jealous of his legs. But so Scott has been in the medical field, administration side of the medical field for your whole career, I think.
15, 20
right?
years.
You're out of Logan, Utah. You played college soccer at Utah State. You served an LDS mission in South America.
Yep.
And you've got, 4 boys.
That's right.
And they all are unique in their own way. 2 of them are twins. Your youngest are twins. You're married to Kara, who's a gem. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, we want to hear it from you, not necessarily from me.
Oh, that's
so
awesome. I think we can be done.
Yeah, we done. Wrap it. So maybe...
No. I want to know if he's a leg shaver. I mean, of all the things we go through today,
I'm a leg trimmer.
You're okay.
Yeah.
So you're not a bicker.
No, I do every once in a while when there's a competition coming up or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not, as you can tell, I'm not a guy that likes hair for some reason. And so, yeah. I might skip a little.
I wanted to mention Bic because, our pie in the sky aspirations is that we have a leg sponsor. So, someday we'll see.
Maybe my calves, but that's about it.
So I think you were on the podium recently. Let's be honest. You jumped into what race? Remind me.
Yeah, East Canyon Triathlon.
Okay. And I remember seeing a picture of you stand on the podium. And how tall are you?
5'9".
5'9".
And
You don't weigh anything, but his legs are ginormous. They're monsters. I think Tom texted me the picture of you on the podium. He's like, dude, check out Scott's legs.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. I got the thunder thighs from soccer.
Dude. Anyway.
What he meant to say was, thank you, Dad.
Oh, dang it. Tell us about growing up in your home. What was it like?
Yeah. So I grew up, like you said, in Logan. My dad was a family physician and OB type doc back in the day when you did both. They both grew up in Salt Lake. Both my mom and my dad went to East High, and my dad was, and he will admit it, he's a complete nerd in high school. Didn't even think about girls. Went to medical school. At the same time, he swam at the U. He was an All-American swimmer at the University of Utah, actually. And then my mom was a free spirit. She was, who knows where my mom was. She was off, taking a nanny job in New York or whatever, or living in Hawaii with her sister or whatever it was. And they met up actually after, like a little later in life. And then they got married. He went to medical school and went back to Detroit for residency and then came back. I lived in the same house my whole life. So they bought a home 44 years ago. And just, 3 weeks ago, they sold the home. So we as a family got together and had a little party with everything out of the house. And just remembering all the memories there was unreal.
How surreal was that?
Yeah, so crazy.
Yeah.
And to know it's done is a little hard, but at the same time, really cool. So, yeah, grew up there. I am the third of 6 kids. So I know you guys have talked a little bit about this, but family and birth order is kind of an interesting thing, right? 2 older brothers, 2 younger brothers, and a youngest sister. So 5 boys and then a girl at the very end. And the thing that I think is most unique about our family is you have my dad, who's this medical intellect, athlete, and you have my mom, who's super creative, wildflower, free spirit type lady, but super service oriented and always doing. She never sits still. And you take those 2 things combined, and we had a pretty unique, set of kids. So my oldest brother, Owen's super creative. He's an artist now for his living, but at the same time was an athlete back in his day when he was a younger kid. He was ranked in the top 10 in the nation, a triathlete. And then you have the second brother, who's now an anesthesiologist, intellectual, really smart, super high ACT, that type of guy. And then you had me, and I was about 4 years behind him. And I was kind of a people pleaser like you, but I also wanted to be competitive with those 2. And everything they did, I wanted to try and do it better for some reason. And in a way, I think it was just innate. I was just born with that nature of wanting to,
Did they know you were trying to beat them and everything?
Yeah. And we'd play basketball in the back court in our house. And if I lost, I'd get ticked off and cry and kick the ball and whatever else, right? And so I was always competing with them both on the sports side and on the intellect side and wanting to do my best in school. And then, of course, I had my younger brothers one was totally into horses and is a cowboy, and one's super creative and into music and all those other things. And then my sister was just a sweet sister to have. So anyway, that was our family. We grew up in Logan, a 2-acre lot. We had a horse corral and a barn where we had some chickens and horses and things like that. But more than anything, what I remember there is mowing 1.5 acres with a push mower.
Mm-hmm.
And it took us literally 9 hours every Saturday.
Wow.
And we had to split it between the 4 of us so we could actually get it done and we wouldn't give up. And got paid zero, like maybe 50 cents an hour for mowing the lawn. And as soon as all of us grew up, my dad got a riding lawnmower.
Of course.
How it has to
I
work.
love this.
So, so that's what I remember probably most about that. And then just, we didn't have cool toys and things like that. But what we did have is my parents were just awesome to my friends. So all of our friends wanted to be at the house, wanted to, to kick it and listen to music and eat nachos and whatever else at my house.
Yeah.
That's kind of me growing up, at least in that house.
Now, if I remember, as a young boy, you were a janitor at your dad's clinic.
Yeah. Yep.
How was that?
Oh man, crazy. So you'd go in and it was like 9 o'clock every night. I was 12 years old, all the way up till I served a mission. So about 18 years old. And it took about an hour to an hour and a half every night.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, probably more often than not, I'd take some friends just to make it so we could hang out, right?
Yeah.
And so they'd come and help me, and I'm not sure how much help they were. It probably took us longer because they were there. But I saw everything from ringworms in the garbage to bloody everything in the garbage. So it was kind of interesting, but taught me a lot to say, hey, I get $20 every time I go. I'm going to make $100 as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old. That was awesome for me.
Yeah.
To learn that.
Did you ever climb into your dad's office chair? Did he have an office?
He had an office, yeah.
Did you ever find yourself sitting in there?
Gosh, it usually had like stacks of charts that I couldn't even sit in his chair. So not a ton, but I do remember, I think more than anything, what I remember from my dad's profession was just going to the hospital with him back in the day when you could go round. When I could go round with him, I remember being 7, 8, 9 years old, going into the hospital to the unit, talking with the nurses, getting a little cup of Sprite, and going around and talking with his patients with him. And him leaving in tears, just thinking, man, I wish I could do more for those people. I love those people. I just had to diagnose him with such and such. This is back when HIPAA wasn't.
That was your dad saying?
That was my dad saying
that to you.
And just caring about the people he cared for. And so it made a huge impact on me about, oh, okay, this is why we do things. We do it because we care about people.
Is that when you knew you wanted to be in the medical field?
Yeah, for sure. As a younger kid, I wanted to be a doctor. But then as I got older, into high school and otherwise, I really learned to love leading, managing groups and people. I learned to love business and just creating something. And, you know, hopefully we can talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, that was a big moment for me to say healthcare is a meaningful thing, and not that selling widgets or doing this or that isn't. But man, that's meaningful to me, is to care for people and their lives and their health.
Right. You're pretty particular now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like OCD.
Yeah. Yeah. Your desk has to be a certain way.
Oh yeah.
Cord management.
You know it too well.
Are you freaking out right now?
No, it's feeling really good, actually.
Reach up, grab that red cord,
yeah,
put it up over this thing, and that way it's not draping for you.
Yeah, did you notice?
Yeah, because we set up the studio, just an hour before you got here. We have cords going a lot of different directions. Mm-hmm. And I'm feeling sweaty palms.
I see a couple things here that I could fix pretty quickly. Continuous improvement. It's not that bad. Come on.
It's not that bad.
No, I am pretty particular though.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Like, what's your earliest memories that you have of being particular? Because it's kind of I'm intrigued to know about this, being a middle child.
Okay, here's a good example. So, I'm like 12 years old, maybe 10 or 11 years old, probably, because I was still in elementary school, 5th grade. My friend and I had this idea that we each wanted to get a pair of Air Jordans, right? Back in the day, and even now, right? Of course, they're super expensive.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was the 3s and 4s or the 4s and 5s, but we each wanted a pair. And so my dad said, you know what? We can get you a pair of Air Jordans, but you have to earn half of it, right? You got to earn $50, and I'll pay the other $50. So I worked pretty hard. 10 or 11 years old. It wasn't easy to earn $50 back in the day. And so I finally earned $50, and I got this awesome pair of Air Jordans. And my friend and I actually swapped a shoe for a shoe. So I had a 4 and a 5, and he had a 4 and a 5. And we did that for a few days, right? And then I took my pair back. And every night after I wore my pair of Air Jordans, I would get a rag, wet it, wash off every little scuff that was on the Air Jordan, even the bottom of the shoe, right? I wanted to keep those because I earned $50 worth. That took me like 3 months to earn. I'm not going to give up on these things. I put them in the box every night, hoping that maybe the new shoe smell would stay or something. It was that particular.
Yeah.
And I kept those things for, probably 2.5 years until my shoes, until my shoe size. I didn't grow very fast, but I kept those things for a really long time because I earned it, and 2, probably just because they were so cool.
Yeah.
That I had to show that.
There's a lot there to unpack no, it's not. But I think that is something that is foundational. When you really kind of go back to what are the things that that you start to cut your personality on, that you can kind of go back and go, that was really interesting. And what helped shape those things. Take us back into, the early teens or whatever. I know you as a pretty incredible athlete. So talk a little bit about athletics and school and why that was, something that you really cut your teeth on, or that, in my opinion, it became a key persona of you. Like when I think of Scott, I think of a lot of things, but I think of an athlete.
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, this is fun to think about because not too long ago, my dad gave us for Christmas, he took all of our family videos and he put them onto CDs, which I don't even know how to get anymore, but somehow we got them onto a computer. And one was one of my earliest races I ever did. And I ran up at Utah State. There was this course that they did. And I think I took third out of the whole thing, and I was like 12 years old, and I just pushed myself so hard. And seeing the joy that came out of my face on this video was like, that's maybe where it started. Is this race when I was 10 or 11, 12 years old. It was probably a 2-mile race or something. But man, I knew I had something there. And so that, and then I go to like 6th grade. We had an awesome PE teacher, Mr. Bettinger. And this kind of goes to the education thing that you guys were talking about. My mom was a teacher's aide, and she still is, 78 years old, and she's still going to school teaching kids and helping. I mean, you talk about your parents that similar, right? And so 6th grade, Mr. Bettinger had something during once a week during lunch hour. It was like an intramural sports. And basically it went the whole year, and every single week on Wednesday during lunch, you could come and participate. And it was everything from juggling and seeing who could juggle the longest to the 100-yard dash to kicking field goals to 1-on-1 and 3-on-3 basketball to you name it. And by the end of the year, whoever won it was the athlete of the year, right? Mm. And so I'm like, okay, from the very beginning, I know who my competitors are. I got Brandon Thurgood over there. I got Steve Marshall over here. I got Eric Petty over there. These 3 guys and whoever else are amazing athletes. I'm going to take them down. Well, I maybe killed it in some and didn't do so well in the others. And I mean, that was like my life. I went to school for that. And I wanted to get good grades, but like every day, that's all I thought about. Lunchtime. Okay, how am I going to do? I got to wear the right clothes to be able to compete in this thing every day. And ended up at the end of the year, took 2nd place to darn Steve Marshall. And Steve is awesome. He's an athlete, just like a unique specimen. Left footer, left-hander, still stay in touch with Steve. And so that I remember as well. Ended up in high school playing, soccer all 4 years, varsity 3 of those 4 years, ran cross country all 4 years and loved that. I remember my freshman year, I ran in this JV complex meet where there were, I think, 7 or 8 schools and took 1st place on the JV. It was my 2nd race ever. And my dad saying, dude, if you really practice this, you could kill it. And it wasn't a love of mine, so I didn't practice it and probably didn't kill it as much, but I was on the varsity team the rest of the year and throughout the rest of my career and absolutely loved that. It's one of those sports where you hate it throughout the year, but then when you're not doing it, you really miss it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you want it back. And then played basketball for 2 years, freshman and sophomore year, and then swam my senior year just for fun because my dad did it and all my brothers did it.
When did you know you were the best soccer player in the family?
Pretty early because my brothers were horrible at soccer. No, they played on like some rec top teams, but I really got into soccer at a young age. I was on the Utah Olympic development team and the ODP team is what they called it at the time. And then I was really lucky. The college coach at Utah State selected 2 high schoolers to play on the college team each year, and got to do that with a friend of mine my senior year.
Cool.
And then played 1 year up at Utah State after that, so 2 years on the college team. And I think just some of those experiences of being asked to play on. This was back in the day when it wasn't this popular. You didn't have traveling teams, but as much, but being asked to play on those traveling teams made a difference, and so that was fun.
Yeah. So where'd all your confidence come from? Because even in 6th grade, you sounded pretty dang confident.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said earlier, part of it is just nature. I think I was blessed with just an ability to say, you know what, whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. And second was parents that gave me confidence and just saying, you know what, Scott, you did awesome there. My dad, gosh, he was so good about managing up the kids. There's a term, right, called managing up or bragging on, whatever. Whenever we were in public settings, and now I know he did this on purpose to give us confidence, was just, you know what my son just did? He just did this. and he scored 22 points in this last game, or he had 3 goals and an assist in the last one. It's like, and it gave me confidence, like he cares and he sees that I'm trying, my best. And then lastly was just having brothers, and whether they let me or whether I just worked really hard and beating them and something finally, that gave me a lot of confidence.
So now I know where you get it from, because I've witnessed you coach up your own kids. You help your oldest boy with regards to his backcountry skiing. You've given him opportunities to excel there, and then Eli. You mentioned Eli's name. He's a phenomenal football player, and you brag on him and coach him up. What does that mean to Eli?
Oh, man. Gosh, I'm going to get emotional now, too, because kind of a sensitive topic, right? Your kids, you live through your kids. And all you want is the best for them. I guess that's what I'm seeing now with my parents, is they just wanted the best for us. And they gave us every opportunity for that. So I'm hoping that what it means for him is that it allows him to see, first of all, that his value is not just in sports. And I can't tell you how often I try and reiterate that I appreciated his effort more than anything, right? His effort in that game was just awesome, killer. Because in reality, that's all I want, right? Is effort wins games, not scoring.
Yeah.
And so, for example, Eli 2 days ago dunked it. He's 13 and he dunked it on a 10-foot hoop. And I took a video of it. I'll send it to you guys after. I've shared it with probably too many people, with every coach he has in football and basketball. And he knows that now. And I hope that it gives him the confidence to say, you know what, even my dad thinks that I'm cool and that I'm doing good things, so I better keep doing those good things.
Yeah.
Because that's what it did for me.
Yeah.
Because when my dad did that for me, and same thing with Will, just seeing that he lands a backflip or that he hits the gnarliest double black and kills it. It's that, he kills me in skiing now, and I hope he sees that it's because he's put effort and time and intensity into it.
Yeah. Awesome.
There's a theme, I feel like, that is emerging even as I hear you talk about, the way your parents treated you, the way that they treated other people, the way that you are now doing it with your kids. They're you said it well, managing up, but there's a concept there of, if you treat a person as they are, they'll stay as they are. If you treat a person as they can become, they will become that person.
Yeah.
And that was the case in terms of how your parents treated other people coming to the dinner table, and how they treated you and your siblings, and it's pretty remarkable to see. And you're seeing it manifested in your kids, but it continues to manifest itself for you, and so continue the journey with us. So athletics were obviously a big deal. It became a driver. Incredibly competitive. What I just heard you describe was an incredibly competitive person who, even wanted to be the decathlete of the elementary school. Oh,
I've even played cornhole with Scott.
Yeah.
And he made sure to crush me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am super competitive, and it's not just in sports, right? In school, we talk about this. I wanted to be the one who got the award at the end of the year for not missing a single day of school.
Yeah.
Right. And getting I got a few A- and a couple B+ in high school, and I was ticked off. Right. And I think it's one, little nature, but also just because my brothers were that great balance, and balance is really important to me. So to that decathlete perspective, my goal still in life is to be the decathlete of life. So take, for example, I get this from my dad, so you're going to have to bear with me. I'm a full load of useless knowledge, right? Useless information. So Ashton Eaton, right? He won the gold in 2 Olympics for the decathlon. My dad always used to say the decathlete is, the athlete of the world.
Yeah.
They can do everything.
Yeah.
4 track events and 6 field events, track and field events, make up the decathlete. So if you take Ashton Eaton and take each individual, at least in the 2016 Olympics, take each individual event. He only finished first in 2 of those 10, right? Most of the others, he was middle of the pack, 18th. A couple of them, he was 2nd or 10th or whatever, but he was middle of the pack. And yet, added up, he was first place. And my hope is, although there's no metrics, there's no KPIs, there's no stat sheet, there's no dashboard for the decathlete of life, my hope is that I can be in that top 20% of, triathlon, or top 5-10% in triathlons, but also in business, in, religion, in family life as a father, in whatever it might be. I hope that I can be in that top percentile so that the whole person matches up to be the number one in the world.
Yeah.
And I can't measure it, but it's how I feel.
Why? Why does that matter to you? You can feel it even when you spend time with you, but why is it that way? What is it in your belief system that is important to you, that you collectively, that it mounts up to X or whatever you're shooting for? Why is it that way, and where did it come from?
Yeah. Gosh, it goes back to your 5 S's. I think it gives me joy and happiness. Whether it's the stoke part of your S, or whether, it's my own philosophy of adding a 6th S, whatever that S is. Something about creating, something about maximizing life. Because in reality, at the end of this life, we're about creating memories, we're about creating experiences, we're about creating businesses, we're about creating family, we're about creating the best self that we can be. So maybe that S is self, right? And make sure you take care of yourself and become the best self that you can be. And that's where joy is. Now, you have to recognize, and I need to do a better job, honestly, of just appreciating where I'm at and being happy with where I'm at.
Yeah.
But also okay, what's the next step for me to be my best self? And I don't know where it comes from. Again, going back to nature versus nurture, I think it's a little of both. But I think I just can't sit still. I can't just be okay with sitting still in any part of my life. I got to be doing something to not just improve, but to enjoy life too.
Yeah.
I was just sitting here thinking, I wonder when the last time he just kind of vegged on the sofa. Can you?
Well, honestly, vulnerability here. Kara and I are on this huge binge of Seinfeld right now.
Well, okay, that's
so for about a half an hour to an hour every night. We're on season 6, and it's taken us about 4 weeks, right? But hey, if I'm going to go in, I'm going to go all in.
I love it.
So, I do that, and I think that actually allows me the rest of the time to say I'm going to maximize the rest of the time. So, not to say I don't sit still by any means, but I probably do have a little too much ADD, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that one of your philosophies or something that you think's really important in your life is balance.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we painted this picture of super driven, always on the go. Something's always on the calendar that you're chasing or getting after. So how do you find the balance other than Seinfeld? Are there other ways that you're finding balance in your life? And what are those outlets?
Yeah. As a kid, I actually did a ton of musicals. My mom was super creative and artistic.
How come I haven't heard you sing?
Well, because that's why I got out of it. You probably have heard me sing.
Are you about to break into song right now?
I can if you want. You're going to lose viewership and listenership. No, so I did a ton of musicals, and I loved art. I still draw to this day. I took AP art in high school and absolutely loved it, mostly like Prismacolor, pen and ink type stuff.
Yeah.
And that is a huge outlet for me to be able to draw. So whenever I can with my kids, I draw. I've got this picture that I've been working on for 4 years now just because I don't have as much time. But every time I'm stressed, that's what I do.
Can you let it out of the bag? What is this picture of?
It's actually cool. It's a cool one. I actually think it would be a cool thing for Aspire. It's a man who you can just tell is distraught. It's a pen and ink, so it's really, really detail oriented. He's got kind of 3-4 days whisker growth. He's got a ton of wrinkles, and you can see the wrinkles in his hands and his fingers, and the age. You can see his wisdom. You can see the wrinkles in his eyes. And so to me, it just like oozes wisdom and life's hard, but we can get through it. So I think that's one thing that I do to balance life in general. Ice cream is a huge,
that I know,
huge thing for me. I could eat ice cream and almost every day I do eat a little bit of ice cream just to
every day
balance life. Almost every day.
Was your dad an ice cream guy?
No, I mean we had Aggie ice cream up there, right? So we had this awesome dairy that would produce ice cream. We had a neighbor who owned Charlie's ice cream, so we'd go get shakes. So I'm pretty particular. I like my shakes thick. I like them flavorful. I like a lot of chunks.
Do you have your shake through a straw or a spoon?
Oh, spoon.
Stop
100%.
it. Straw.
I
Runny
no,
shakes,
dude. I'm sorry. I like a straw.
Preston, I think we just distanced ourselves a little bit here.
Dude.
Something.
I'm pretty particular as it comes.
How do you
to
feel
ice cream.
about raspberry Oreo?
For
That's a
those of you
great
that didn't
combo.
notice during Preston's interview, he pretty much has been a senior citizen since he's 21.
There's some
He's drinking shakes.
Do you put
He
Miralax in your
takes his
shakes?
carrots in a blender.
To keep regular, do you keep Miralax in your shakes?
No, I don't need that.
So I actually, one of my favorite shakes is peanut butter raspberry.
Oh,
So
What?
think of like a PB&J with milk. What's better than
Okay.
a PB&J with milk? So you put peanut butter and raspberry in a shake, and that's what you got.
wow. I thought I was pretty proud of raspberry Oreo.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But that's interesting.
never done it,
I'll have
but-
to try that one.
So those are a couple examples of maybe the outlets that I use to maintain some balance. There's plenty of others.
Hey, just real quick, I'm interested to know, when you go see your brother's work, who's an artist,
Yeah.
do you want to compete with him? You're like, I could draw that.
Oh man, his is he does some cool stuff. It's like outdoor nature. He takes antlers, he takes leaves, he takes branches and turns them into really high end
Wow.
art for Jackson Hole, for Vail Aspen type
Yeah.
galleries.
What's his name?
Owen Mortensen.
Is it Owen Mortensen Art?
OwenMortensenArt.com or something like that. I can't remember, but awesome artwork. So I know I can't even compete with him, but I did work for him for a couple of years and tried to learn the trade. But yeah, he's just very, very detail oriented. So it's
That's
awesome.
cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
I have to look it up.
Yeah.
Can't compete at that level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's earning a living as an artist.
I know,
That's
it's pretty
impressive.
awesome. It is.
I mean,
Pretty awesome.
yeah. Side note.
Yeah.
Are you a true Aggie?
I am not. Kara knows this, but not with my wife. So I dated a girl in high school that I thought the world of.
So you became a true Aggie before you enrolled at Utah State.
Yeah, I think I was a senior in high school.
Wow.
It was one of those midnight, let's break the Guinness Book of World Records, and everyone go. You have to be touching. How many people kissed at the same time at the same place? So,
Always ahead of your time.
Always.
Never JV. Never
Well, JV
JV.
in plenty of things.
On the topic of Kara, take us through that. Just the love story, teen years. Take us through that time frame of like later high school into LDS mission and in wedding years.
Yeah. So, loved dating as a high school kid. Just wanted to get to know girls from other high schools and from my own high school, and just have a blast. And dated a ton of girls. Really liked a few girls, but at the same time knew that it's like we're in high school, we're having fun. And then as I got into college, after my mission, got into college, I recognized that dating with a purpose was pretty key. Was dating a girl from Salt Lake, great girl, but I tended to be driving down there more often than she was driving up, and I wanted a two-way relationship for sure, where she felt the same. And so I was the LDSSA president up at Utah State for that year, and we had a chance to people would apply to be on LDSSA, and I had this one pager of dozens and dozens of people, and I would thumb through them. Right, here's who I am, here's where I'm from, here's what I'm studying in school, here's what committee I want to be on. And I was thumbing through and saw one particular. It was like a 1-by-1 picture, but it was this cute blonde girl with blue eyes, Kara Hopkins. Okay, I need to get to know her. I want her on my committee. And we did this little draft among the
Yeah, you
LDSSA
did.
presidency.
Abuse of power.
This is the theme.
I never had the keys. I didn't have any keys like Preston did. But
Did you have a sweater?
so
If there was an LDSSA
I told Preston
sweater,
this
there
2
was
weeks
a
ago.
cardigan for sure.
I actually was a 3-time student body officer as well.
There you go.
And I was senior class president, so I'm still doing all the reunions too.
There you go.
But I never
We
got
can
keys
commiserate.
like you did. So anyway, I saw her on this. I'm like, I
Yeah.
got to have her on the committee. Well, we did this draft, and the person right before me got her on her committee, and I was kind of ticked off. In the end, it worked out really well because we were dating while I was the LDSSA president, which was a little frowned upon, right? Like you can't get married until after you're done with your presidency. So I actually, one of my biggest fears, I don't know why, because I come from a really stable family. One of my biggest fears in life was if you're going to get married, find the person that's right for you that you won't ever need or have cause to get a divorce. And I don't know why that was so prominent because again, I came from a really stable family, but it took me a while. One, I think I was having fun dating in college, right? And I was runner-up Mr. USU, and I felt like I was
Stop
cool.
it.
BOMC, whatever it is, big man on campus, BMOC. But so I thought I could, I can conquer whoever I want or get the lady. But in the end, that didn't even matter. It's like I want to find the person that's the right fit for me. And so it took me. We dated a year and a half, which in most cultures is like super short. In Utah, it's a really long time.
Yeah.
And we broke up a couple times. I tried to date a couple other girls, and I just kept going back to Kara because she had everything I needed. Yes, she's beautiful and she's just awesome in so many ways, but she is grounded. She's super organized, which I needed. I'm an optimist, and so I'm always trying to do one more thing instead of, being on time and being organized. She's great that way. I knew, okay, she'll be an amazing mom. She'll be an amazing person to be with, and she'll help me drive to be better. So it took me about a year and a half to figure that out, but we got there, and it was awesome. So it's been awesome ever since. 20 years in a month.
Congrats.
So thank you.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
At some point it would be fun to have her in, but yeah, for the listeners, Kara's amazing. Like she is one of those women who you meet, you're just like, man, she's got it all together.
Yeah, she does.
Her shoe game is strong too, by the way. My
loves
wife loves her shoe game. You've got strong shoe game, but she's got really strong shoe game.
Yeah, and I'm competitive with her in that too, but she beats me for sure.
Yeah, Kara's awesome.
So you kicked off as newlyweds, got married. Take us from that going forward.
Yeah.
Dive into that.
Okay, so just before I do that, because I in preparing my own mind for this, I wanted to make sure that I at least shared some vulnerable things too. Mm-hmm. And one thing that really, I've talked about the things that made me compete both in elementary school, middle school, high school, and beyond. But, there have been a few major trials in my life as well. And one of those as a kid, it sounds kind of funny, but each of us have our own trials. And honestly, if we each wrote down our trials right now and put them in the middle of this room and picked a paper up, we'd probably say, okay, that's their trial. I'd rather take mine because we can handle them, right? One of mine was homesickness. From a very, very early age, I can remember my parents going on a trip to Hawaii for like 4 or 5 days, and we had a babysitter, and I went crazy. I couldn't eat, and I couldn't, and I just went crazy. I couldn't, in 6th grade, I couldn't go have a sleepover at my next door neighbor's house because I was away from my home, from normalcy. In 7th grade, they had to give me at school a special assignment to go be in the office for an hour during my break hour so I could call home and talk to my mom, right? And as I got older, I'm playing soccer at Utah State, and I still get homesickness. We're going to, play at Pacific and Cal Berkeley, and we're going to play in Phoenix, and we're going to play these other places, and I would get super homesick. I got my mission call right in the middle of that, and we're playing at BYU, and I'm so worried about this homesickness that's going to come to me because I'm going to go leave for 2 years and be away from my family, and I literally couldn't eat. All I had eaten for 2 weeks was those Boost protein drinks.
Yeah.
And I'm playing soccer on the field and literally faint on the field because my energy was gone. I was so worried about leaving home, carry me off. And I went to a psychiatrist and psychologist and just to better understand how can I overcome this trial. And back in the day, it was a weird thing and an abnormal thing to go seek help from others, therapy that way. And honestly, it just took time. It took me praying day and night for months. I lost 15, 20 pounds on my mission. I'm not a big guy, and I lost a lot of weight on my mission. Trying to say, help me get over this. I've had it for 15, I guess it was 12, 13 years at the time. Just help me get over this trial. And finally, it was just one day that it just left me. And it's like, you've had enough of that. You've done your part. It's still going to be hard, but at the same time, I'm taking that away. And so I guess what I hope from that story is just that other people know that things do get better at some point. There are going to be hard things that last for a long time, whether it's a chronic illness or whether it's your mental state that just lasts for a long time, and it's really hard. And there's still thoughts of me saying, why was I able to get over it when some people can't? And just know that there's light at the end of the tunnel for sure there. And the reason I share that story with you, because, in the coming years after we get married, there are other trials that come up with us. And I hope that people recognize that those things we can be creative in how we overcome our trials. So
is that what, in terms of just progression of life, was that the first time that you were faced with something where it's like, I can't get out of this?
Yeah.
Where before you were like, I'm a competitor, I'm going to set the goals. So you were so in control of your trajectory in life, but that was the first time, during those years where you're like, yeah, I got nothing.
100% limiting factor for me, right? To say, I can't do this. It's not up to me.
You were in college when you went to see some help?
I was right before my mission. So yeah. Okay. I was in my first year of college.
And was that your parents' idea? Hey, let's go talk to somebody.
Yeah. So because my dad was a doctor, he had friends that were
he was comfortable. He understood the medical
value.
Side of it, right?
Yeah. And my dad's one that always said, as a family physician, if I can't treat you with medication, with help here, with a surgery there, then go seek other, complementary alternative medicine. Go see a chiropractor, go see a therapist, go see someone, anything can help us.
Was the MTC did it hit you there? I mean, was there to a certain extent, was it from day one? This is mine to carry.
I mean, full, full ability to, this is just an example, full ability to eat whatever you want at the MTC, right? Captain Crunch to your
endless sausage.
Yeah, exactly. And yet I lost 10 pounds in the MTC.
For anyone that's listening, MTC Missionary Training Center.
Yeah.
So you went there for 3 months?
Yeah, 2 months.
2 months prior to going to, was that in Provo?
Yep, in Provo. So I'm still in Utah. I'm somewhat close to family, but in reality I'm not, because I'm not talking to them on the phone. I'm writing letters. And so I'm basically alone. The good thing I had there is I had friends. I had people that I knew that were also going to serve a mission, and they were in the same MTC, right? The same missionary training center. So I had this feeling of, okay, I'm still somewhat tied to home. But then going to Bolivia, I'm at the end of the world, in the middle of nowhere, circumstances totally different, and that's probably where it hit me even more. So
yeah.
But when you were waiting for your mission call, you were dealing with a lot of these same feelings?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you throw a party when you received your mission call? Or was it pretty private?
No, it was private. It was just my family. In fact, I have that video too from my parents.
Huh.
And I cried the whole time I read my call. I was so proud to be able to say I'm going on a mission, but at the same time I was so fearful. I can't do this. I can't go for 2 years. I can't even go for a day to my next door neighbor's house.
Yeah. Wow.
I went to my cousin's house in Arizona for 2 weeks, came home a week early because I couldn't stay for, more than a week. And so I just how am I going to do this? It's anxiety striking, right? And I think, it's a lot of so the therapist that I met with, one thing that he taught me that helped me a ton on my mission was find yourself in a place that's calming to you. And this was before I left, right? And there's so many ways to treat and to think, but my mindset was really important for me to be in the right mindset. So find a place that's awesome to you, that's calming, that's your comfortable place. And for me, I used to run up in the foothills of Logan. So I remember Green Canyon with my dog, my golden retriever, Kelsey. I'm sitting on a rock, I'm sweating, and yet I can see the sun setting in Cache Valley. And I can smell the wind across the wheat fields, and I can, just sense a calming nature. And so he had me do this all the time. And I probably reenacted that 100 times on my mission when I was in the worst place. I would go and I would sit down. I would sit on a park bench. I would sit in my bed and just close my eyes and see myself with Kelsey in Green Canyon with those same sources. And it gave me a lot of comfort.
I know that this is probably the first time you've gone public with this, but can we double click a little bit more on it?
Yeah, for sure.
So being married to a therapist, I hear, my wife, Liza, come home often and she's meeting with, missionaries, and she's meeting with adults and, people of all ages. And one of the brilliant things that you just described is, in her practice, she talks about it all the time. And that is when you are away or when you are in a situation and you now need to cope with the anxiety that you're in, if you have not practiced it, if you don't have the tools, you can't use them. And what you just described was meeting with a therapist and having a strategy that you then could draw on and use. You had practiced it before you left, and then you could employ it, when you needed it. And one of the challenges that happen often, we talked about it, in the Utah High School Cycling League training was, when kids get to the race, they are anxious and they now want to fix. They're like, well, make it go away. Like, what do I do? And although as coaches, you want to help them in the moment, you don't practice the tool in the moment. You practice it before you need it. You have to have the tools in your toolkit to be able to draw from them. And that was such a great example of you being out there on a mission and knowing exactly the tool to use and the strategy. It didn't necessarily make it all go away, but would you say that was your go-to coping? That was the coping strategy in the moment?
It was 100% that and prayer, honestly.
Yeah.
Prayer helped a lot. And whether it's meditation or prayer, whatever it is for you, believing in a source that can help you is really, really key. Because some things in this life we just can't overcome alone. And sometimes we're going to have people by us that understand us, that give us those tools.
Yeah.
And that helps a ton. But then just prayer and knowing that we're all living on this life trying to do our best for something more really helped a ton too. So, yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I often wonder, how someone as driven and capable and as achievement focused as you are, having done a lot of stuff, what role that continues to play. When to a certain extent, it's like, yeah, I've got this one, So you alluded to a trial right now, but before we get there, maybe go back to just early career, you and Kara, newlyweds, go from that point and talk through school and getting professional going.
Yep. So Kara and I got married 2003 and bought our first home. We lived in the basement. And it was probably the size of this office times half. So about 600 square feet. We lived in the basement, fixed up the top and rented out the top. Then we moved to the top and fixed out the bottom and rented out the bottom, sold the home, and that's what paid for part of grad school. So Kara did a master's in second language teaching while I was working just prior to going to school. I worked at Al Sporting Goods worked there and then spent all my money there. So we didn't. I'm a gearhead too. You guys have talked about that, but another day, another story for another day. But worked there, worked at a golf course for a little bit just to kind of learn that a little, and then started a job at the hospital because I knew I wanted to be in healthcare. Did that for 2.5 years. I'm a learner by doing, right? When I do something and then I go learn about it, it seems to stick better for me. So I thought that was important. So she finishes her grad school like a week before we have Will, our first boy, who's now 16, almost 17. And then we move out. Will's like 6 months. We move out to Minnesota. I do an MBA and an MHA. So it's usually 2 years each. I do them in 3 years, just this combined program, and at the University of Minnesota. The MHA program's there is well known. It's been around for a long time. The MBA program's top 25, and so I thought, gosh, they're saying I can come. I'm going to go for sure. And I did the dual degree because I knew, one, I wanted to be in healthcare, but the MBA to me was awesome because it allowed me, one, to network with people that are in business, that are doing finance, they're doing venture capital, they're doing, banking, they're doing marketing. And that was really key for me. I'm one that believes that experiences and knowledge are power. And so, it took me an extra year and it took me an extra $20,000 or whatever it might be, but I got to do a study abroad in Costa Rica, learning about ecotourism. Am I ever going to use it? Probably not, but it's an experience and it's a knowledge that I now have that I wouldn't have otherwise. So anyway, we do that for 3 years. I'm competitive, couldn't have my wife outdo me with one master's. I had to do the two. And so I did an internship for a year with the Innovation Lab down at Mayo Clinic, one of the well-known health systems, hospitals in the country. And
in Rochester.
In Rochester. My brother was a resident there at the same time, which is pretty cool to be a part of there with him. And then a year I worked for United Healthcare as in their managed care networks. And then after that, we moved to Cleveland, Ohio for a couple years. I did what they call a fellowship, which is similar to a medical residency, but for administrative people. So Cleveland Clinic was, again, a really well-known organization. That's one thing that I've tried to do my whole career. And just in life, right? I try and hang out with the best people I can, people like you guys. I try and work for the best organizations that I can. You talked about it, you try and be with and be like the people that you're at so that you can reach your next level of potential. And at the same time, you try and be that person for other people that are trying to succeed and grow. So being a mentor in that way is also key. So anyway, then went to Cleveland Clinic. Stayed there for a couple years. We bought a home thinking we'd be there 6-7 years. And this next trial in our life kind of came about. So we had Will on our own pretty easily. It took us a little bit, but pretty easily. And then we tried to have another child for 3, 4, 5 years and just couldn't. We tried some of the minor, less expensive fertility treatment, and it just didn't work. And we were in Cleveland and just knew we needed someone else in our family. We needed another child. And so we decided to adopt. And again, could go off for a long time on that. Used an agency here in Utah, used LDS Family Services in Cleveland to get approval, but used a private agency here because it was faster for us. And we had tried for so long that we were just ready. And the expenses of adopting, that was more expensive than my grad school. Right, and so that financially set you back a little bit, but I would have paid triple. I would have paid quadruple. I would have paid any amount to know. And so we got Eli from birth. We came out to Utah. The birth mother was from Georgia. She came out here, and we adopted Eli at birth. And I remember holding him the first, to giving him his first bath. And there was absolutely no doubt when I first saw him that he was my son. We all come in different ways to families, and there was no doubt that he came just in a different way. And the truth is, our twins, 7 years later, we tried for 7 more years after that to have kids. So what, 12, 13 years trying to have kids, and this was our third and final attempt with our twins. Fertility treatments of, the most expensive ones we could. Again, huge expense, but it's worth it. To create a family is just totally worth it. So they came in a totally different way, right? And we try and tell our kids that they each came in different ways. Just because Eli's black and looks different, our twins are different, right? Because they're twins and they came in a totally different way. They were frozen for 3 years as embryos. And then, we're born through fertility. And we feel so blessed to be able to have all 4 of our boys. So those were trials that for a long time our faith was tested for sure. Just like, why? It's such an innocent, meaningful desire. And yet there's people all over the place having kids that probably shouldn't or don't want to. Why this? And I've really learned that trials, any trial in our life, whether it's not winning the race, or whether it's, not being able to have kids, or, unemployment, whatever it is, are actually, they all happen for a reason. There is no coincidence, and they make us stronger, better people in the long run. And they always prove to put you in a better place than they would have otherwise. So I choose to be grateful and happy for those things, and not ticked off or disappointed or angry or upset.
Yeah.
How has it galvanized your relationship with Kara?
Gosh, a lot of prayer, a lot of holding hands, and just being grateful for what we have. Having Will for a period of time only, and then for another 7 years having both Will and Eli only, and saying, you know what, let's just focus on what we got. Let's love them to death. And if this is all we got, then we're just going to love them and love them and love them. We made that conscious choice, and then, finally got blessed with 2 more. So I think it just allowed us to really set our goals together to say, okay, what does it mean if we only have 1, or if we only have 2? I mean, 1 is more than a lot of people are able to have. So let's be grateful for it, and let's work together to be the best mom and dad that we can to this 1, or to this 2, or now to this 4. So yeah, it's drawn us closer together, because we had to rely on each other for sure. And some days I was in a good place and could help her, and some days, and most days, she was in a good place and could help me.
I've got to think, you're going through all of this while you're away from family. It's just the 2 of you.
Yeah.
Right? You're on your own.
Oh, and that's awesome. If you don't have a chance, anyone out there right now that has a chance to say, let's move away from family, let's get out of mom and dad's basement, let's, get away from their penny, 100% do it. The happiest years of our lives were in married student housing, in this apartment that reeks like the rest of the world because so many people are there, and yet we're just enjoying the simple things of life, right?
Yeah.
With 0 income, living off student loans, right?
And you just make it work.
And you make it work.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. So yeah, totally galvanized our family as an individual source. And that's why I think I actually appreciate living an hour north and an hour south of both of our families, just on our own.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for
being
a little vulnerable there.
So after Cleveland Clinic, we move out to Utah. We wanted to move after we adopted Eli. We just realized we need to be back closer to family. Actually couldn't sell our house for 10 years after in Cleveland because the market there's pretty poor. But moved out here, started with Intermountain Healthcare, and have for the last 13 years or so been with Intermountain Healthcare. Was the assistant administrator or COO of a couple of hospitals. From small community hospitals to the COO and most recently the CEO of larger hospitals, trauma facilities, larger high-growth community hospitals, and just have loved my career, making a difference. And, the mission of Intermountain is to help people live the healthiest lives possible. And I love that just in the fact that whether you're the Olympic athlete or the person that's struggling to get out of bed, our mission is to help you live your best life. And so just firmly believe in that, whether it's Intermountain or not.
Tell us about the transition, because over the last several months you went from COO, which you were in, that capacity for a number of years, to then being promoted. And so talk through that, just the process.
Yeah. The last 6 years, so I moved up and met you all about 6-7 years ago. I was in Utah County for a long period of time, was the CO of a smaller community hospital there, COO of multiple hospitals down there. And then we moved up here. Part of it was honestly just the organization said, will you move up there? And we had just built a home in Eagle Mountain, loved it. And yet, you kind of take the opportunity as it comes. So we moved up here. Didn't actually think of Mountain Green, had never heard of it. Went to Pleasant View, went to North Ogden, went over into Huntsville. We loved Huntsville in that area. And then on our way home, we drove over Trappers Loop and saw this place. And we're like, oh my goodness, we got to live here. And gosh, what a blessing. I couldn't be happier with where we live and the people that we're surrounded by. But
Jackson, let's edit this out. We don't need to endorse Mountain Green for any more people.
That's a good point.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, you welcomed me, so I got to welcome you.
Yeah.
So, so so have been up here 6-7 years. Was at McCady Hospital, large trauma facility, level 2 trauma facility, and acted as the COO in multiple different capacities for the last like 5 years. And then my boss kind of took a new job. He was the CEO of the hospital. He kind of took a job that was leading him toward other ventures within Intermountain. And they asked me for a few months to take on the interim CEO job of a large trauma hospital, right? And to be the COO at the same time. And I said, I can keep things afloat for a few months. Let's do it. And then a few months became 6 months, became 16 months. And I learned a lot from that opportunity because, in the end, they filled that role of the CEO, and I applied for it and I interviewed and I didn't get the job. And I was pretty ticked off. I've been doing the job for 16 months. And first of all, you tell me for just to do it for a few months, and then you add on a few more and a few more. Had you told me for a year and a half, I would have taken a totally different route.
Yeah.
I would have set a vision. I would have set a stage for how we can be successful in the next 2 years. And, not blaming by any means, but I was disappointed that I wasn't given that opportunity to then lead in the long term. And so I had to take a few days off. And I went up to our family cabin and I went on a bunch of trail runs and I listened to a bunch of cool podcasts and good talks that re-centered me on what's really important in life and reiterated the fact that, everything happens for a reason. There's actually a calm about this that helps me realize that something else is out there. And, a month later, the person that took the job moved from the other hospital and I became the CEO of that hospital, Layton Hospital, right? Smaller hospital, but really allows me a lot more autonomy, super high growth, which I'm an entrepreneur by heart. So I love the growth. Small enough that I can wrap my arms around it, get to know people, build around the community, and just allowed me the opportunity to have a little more balance in my life. So I actually was really glad it happened. And yet at the same time, alluding to the next phase in my life, when I didn't get that other job, that CEO job at McCady, I just had this feeling like, what, maybe there's something else out there in the long run for me. I should open some doors. I should start networking again. I always network. I'm a networker by nature because I'm a connector, but I thought maybe I should, network. And so I reached out to some friends and to others, and both of you and others, saying, how should I think about this? What other things should I be thinking about? And that alone spurred some things that are happening now. So fast forward 7-8 months, I'm in this new gig. I'm the CEO of a hospital. Every hospital in the country has to have a CEO by state law, right? By license. We are tied to the license of the hospital. It's like the most stable job ever. And we're doing awesome things. We're growing 123 million revenue and continuing to expand 10, 15, 20% per year. Super stable. And yet, out of the blue, this is super fresh, about a month ago, I get a call from my boss, the regional vice president, saying, hey, can you meet? Myself and the vice president of HR would like to meet. Okay. Vice president of HR and my boss want to meet. Clearly something's happening. And, they share with me, we're restructuring as an organization. Every region, every market, the market president is now going to be asked to be the CEO of one of the hospitals and the market president. So we've got to eliminate your job. And, it's like, the weight. I've got 4 kids at home. I've got a, family, and I've got, just a life that I need to be able to provide. That's where I have so much value in my life, right? Is being able to provide for a family. And yet I don't have that now in 3 weeks. I have 0 of that. And yet, for some reason, I just had this calm feel about me. Like, you know what? It's a good thing. Yeah, I think I'm good. Okay, take my job. It's like, why am I giving up on this? Why am I not pushing? And I pushed and I, said, why not look at it this way? And why not do this and that? Stability of a job is amazing. But there was this calmness. And I think 1, it's because I have a faith in something more. And 2, it's because I had done my work prior to that to say, I'm going to open some doors otherwise. And so it gave me a calmness. Now, I'm not 100% secured still, but I got things in the works and I'm super excited about them. And it wouldn't have happened had I not gotten that no 7 months ago. I wouldn't have been as prepared. So I think there's a lesson in that, right? A life lesson of take no's as an opportunity to build something down the road, and know that the Lord, that a higher power has more in store for you than you even know.
Amazing. What's interesting is, I don't know if it was the day of or the day after, but I remember reading your LinkedIn post, about you having your position eliminated. And I remember thinking, this is the most classy exit, I've ever seen. And I think that says a lot, to your character. And, at the same time, I've known you for a few years, and I've said this to you before, but I still believe this. I don't know that there's anybody with a higher ceiling that you have. It's your potential and your capability is so high. So wherever you end up, those people are getting a gem. I really feel that way. Like, I would not want to compete you, not in the decathlon in elementary school, and sure as heck not now, in life. I really feel that way. So
that's nice. Yeah.
That's an incredible way that you exited, there. So in light of that, in light of all growing up and the setbacks, on a mission, the way that you and Kara went through, the struggles of having children and now these things, that have happened, struggle continues to happen, right? It just does. How do you stay stoked? How do you stay this way? Because you still keep battling.
Oh, man. I don't have a great answer for it, honestly, other than the fact that I think, I had this term on my mission that I would write at the bottom of every letter: keep on keeping on. I just think if we keep plugging away and yes, we have to be planned and we have to have a strategy and we have to know that we're doing our part. But if we keep plugging away, then we're bound to find success somewhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's financial success and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's success in just our own mindset. But I think that's one big thing. I think my wife believing in me has made a huge difference for me. When I feel lowest, when I feel like I'm depleted, just her confidence in me is huge, right? And when the people that believe in you most have confidence in you, I don't think there's any stopping you, right? One of my favorite movies, Cinderella Man, about the story of James J. Braddock, right? And the boxer in the Depression, where he boxes and then basically he injures himself, has to go work on the docks, comes back, years later, and says, hey, you got to reinvent yourself. Go box again. And he does, and he's successful, right? He didn't give up on it and reinvented himself and kind of remade himself. And I think that hits home to me, just to say, you know what, things are going to happen. And the truth is those things, as hard as they might be, are really for your good. And they make you a better leader, a better husband, a better so-and-so in the long run. Just keep that in mind. Now, yeah, be sad, be depressed for a little bit, be distraught, whatever, but don't loathe in it. Don't bake yourself in it. Get out of it and keep going, keep on keeping on.
Do you think the calmness that you alluded to when your position was eliminated, was that a learned behavior that you had finally figured out? Or is there something more to that?
I think in general, my belief, I've alluded to it a couple times, I think everything in life is a combination of nature and nurture. I think part of it is nature. I just don't hold on to things and I let things fall off of me pretty quickly. But at the same time, I think part of it was learned in the fact that I had been through hard things. And knowing, 15 years later that we have 4 boys and it worked out, seeing some of those things now years later made me realize, okay, I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'll have a job a month from now or a year from now, but I know something will work out for the better.
Yeah.
Just like my kids did, just like my homesickness did, just like whatever else. And so I think it's both nature and nurture.
One of the things is you just finished saying that I was hoping that we would draw out of you today in getting together was that people would hear that you can struggle in confidence, that it is possible to struggle and still maintain confidence in your ability to withstand trial. You know, that what you just described all through that was that not being able to have kids, you know, homesickness, losing your job as the CEO of one of the, you know, if not the largest employer in this state, that it didn't define you. You're still Scott, you're mad, but you have the capability of separating who you are and your ability to do and become from something that happened in life. It wasn't your life. That didn't define all of it. And I think that's remarkable, you know, and rare. I mean, there aren't a lot of people who have the capability to just say, well, that happened, but it's not necessarily me. And we had some vulnerable discussions, you and I. I'm sure you've talked to Preston about that a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not to say that, you know, you weren't Arsenio hauling, you know, as you walked out of that job, but you maintained your dignity and your confidence in your ability to still be you.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to that decathlon of life. You know, I might not have taken first place in that job, right? Because the job was eliminated. But, you know, I've got so many other events that I can compete in, and that I can make part of it. And, you know, and we'll get to the other kind of some of the other ventures I have from, you know, Morty's Car Wash and otherwise. But I guess my thought in life in general is it's just one event, move on to the next event. You know, if you took 18th place, take first in the next one or take second. And by doing that, we don't define ourselves by one single investment, right? Just like in investing, we aren't supposed to put all of our money in one stock, right? Put it in a diversified stock, put it in land, put it in, you know, real assets. Same thing applies to life, right? Don't put it all in one. That doesn't define you. Yeah, it's a big part of it. And you might have most of your money in stocks and you might have most of your value in your job. But man, there's so much more to life than just that.
I think we could end there just because of what you just described the last 30 seconds about you may have not gotten first in this, but that is just one part of life. And I think as men, that's hard, right? Because I put so much pressure on myself to be the provider, to be the money, to do. I have a lot of pride in that, in my capability to do it. And when it doesn't go well, when I don't win my first place, that hurts, you know? So what you just described, I think, is so refreshing to, I think, a lot of men, you know, that does not have to define, you know, who you are or how the rest of your life can go. Having said that, talk about these other things, because I love that you have diversified, you know, that you have other things going like Morty's. So describe just some of those other things that you're doing and that you're involved in.
Well, I mean, I'll say it again, just balance is so key to me. And I find a lot of happiness and joy in being busy. And so, you know, 10 years ago, I was down living in Eagle Mountain, one of the fastest growing communities in the state of Utah. There was a Maverick and there was a golf course and there was a bunch of homes, and that's about it. And it was kind of in the middle of the desert, but I saw this need. And I mean, first and foremost, I have to recognize John White, and mentor of mine who has owned a successful business, sold it just for fun, bought a couple car washes, bought a distributor to re-diversify his money. And over a long period of time, almost weekly, I would call John and just pick his brain about car washes for some reason. As you know, I'm a little OCD about, you know, organization and cleanliness. And so in high school, I had a good friend, Chris Davis, his dad owned a dealership up in Logan, and we would go to the dealership and we would wash our cars. And this became like a thing for me. Clean car, clean body, clean mind, clean whatever. And so I kind of had this fetish for clean cars. And so as I got older, I'm like, this is a business thing. I can do this. And John kind of turned me on to car washes. In Eagle Mountain, I was this close to starting a car wash. And then, of course, we moved up to this direction. And so I had this business plan to say, hey, I'm gonna start a car wash. So it's been about a year now. May 10th, I think, is our anniversary, and invite you guys to the birthday party on May 10th. I appreciate your support already. But so as I got up here, I realized I'm going to do one here. There's this South Weber, this growing area that has a really busy Maverick. I had my two boys go with me when we first moved up to Mountain Green, go down to South Weber. I had one of them sit at the north entrance of Maverick, and one of them sit at the east entrance for 8 hours. It's like 12-year-old and 9-year-old. And they sat there and they counted cars that went into the Maverick and out of the Maverick to say, is there potential here? Is there enough volume, right? We're right off 89, right out of 84, but is there enough volume? And they counted cars for me. And I realized, okay, I'm going to do this. So I've got, 4 other investors that have invested in the car wash with me. I've learned a lot along the way. Starting your own business is not easy. It takes a lot more than just hey, let's go start a business.
Totally.
Big or small, it's really hard. From, operating agreements to the legal to purchasing and working with cities and counties to rezone to pleasing investors. It's a hard thing for me, knowing that I haven't been able to, give them their money back yet. And yet we're, 10 months in. I'm good with it. But it's also taught me a lot about drive, a lot about mentorship. I've got 4 college kids that are working there that I'm teaching how to run their own business and reconcile accounting and how to market and how to sell. So it's just taught a ton to me, and it's helped me realize that I can create. And again, I go back to that. Life is about creating. We all need to learn how to create, whether it's a business, a family, a memory, an experience. Create. Whenever you have a chance, create something. Create a piece of artwork, right? And diversify where you're spending your time, because that's where value and knowledge comes from. That's the only thing we're going to take with us, so you might as well do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I've done that. I mean, it's to diversify financially and have a passive income, and I'd love to do 2 or 3, 4 more. So if you know of any good places that are growing, let me know. But it's more than anything, it's about diversifying and giving my kids a chance to be able to work too there in the future.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, it is for sure.
I think it's so cool what you've done. And it's a great wash.
Thanks.
Morty's in South Weber.
I'm
Go get it.
representing with
Both
the ball
are,
cap.
by the way, socks too.
Oh, sweet.
Tom's got his
I had 'em
car
on.
wash socks.
That's right.
So the thing that I've learned there too is, spend the money and the time researching. We have a kind of a cool concept that does a 3D image of your car, and it's a pretty customized wash, right? If you drive a Mini Cooper versus a Ford F-350, it'll adjust and wash your car in a different way. And it's not perfect, and we learn from the customer experiences, but it's been a fun thing to learn in a totally different area that I've never known.
Yeah.
So anyway.
It's awesome.
Totally cool. How do you want to end this? There's a number of ways that you can, but I'm intrigued to know just if you want to freestyle for a minute, if there's any one person or people or whoever that you would love to share a heartfelt message with, let her rip.
Gosh. I don't know why this is on my mind, but I'll share with you Kay Reese. Gosh. She is amazing. She was my elementary kindergarten teacher, then became my 2nd grade teacher, then became my principal at Edith Bowen Laboratory School up at Utah State. She gave me more hope in my life than ever. I'm in elementary school, right? And I want to be successful. And at this school, you earned big blue bucks. You earned big blue bucks that you could spend at the school store, like any school. And I wanted the most big blue bucks I could get. I wanted them so much that I took my brother's big blue bucks and erased his name on the back and put my name on the back. And I handed him in, and somehow she found out and she saw it. And she called me down to her office and said, "Scott, I know you're better than this. You have values and you're an amazing kid. You're going to earn your big blue bucks. You just go and earn them." And this sounds really stupid, but like 2 years later, I got the Hope of America award, right, in 5th grade. So be it. It's like one of 25 people. For some reason, that award, like, I haven't mentioned it yet, but it drove me to want to be my best for the rest of my life, right? And Kay Reese has been my friend ever since. She comes to all our family parties. She, I see her at times, and as she gets older, I could hug her every day and thank her for what she did for me, for my confidence, and for teaching the value of honesty, first of all, right? But then just of having hope that I can be something special in my life. And I was just a normal kid that wanted to have fun and be active. But man, she made me believe, and she still makes me believe. I mean, I see her, and every time I text her or call her, she's like, "You're amazing, Scooter. You are the best person." And I think if we can be mentors, and if we can accept it from other people, life's bound to be better when we believe in ourselves and when other people believe in us. So that's what I would say.
Man, I'm so stoked that we finished talking about educators and teachers, because they're my heroes too. I mean, they changed my life. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the BrainStoke podcast, dude.
Oh, it's been awesome.
You're awesome in so many ways. And we now know he's called Scooter, which has done my heart some good too.